You've probably heard the buzzwords flying around. AI agents, agentic workflows, all that stuff. And they're suddenly everywhere. But what do they actually mean? Chances are, if you've gone looking for an answer, you've found explanations that are either way too technical or so simple they're pretty much useless. So we're going to cut through all that noise and give you a clear, simple path to really understanding what might be one of the biggest shifts happening in AI today.
So let's just get right to it. Are these AI agents just another piece of tech hype, or are we looking at a genuine revolution? My goal here is that by the end of this explainer, you're not going to need me to answer that for you. You'll have the framework to decide for yourself.
Here's our game plan. We're going to tackle this in 3 simple levels, and it all starts with technology you already know and probably use. We'll start with the basics, language models. Then we'll level up to AI workflows. And finally, we'll make that big leap to true autonomous agents. Trust me, it's way more straightforward than it sounds.
Okay, let's dive into level 1, the foundation. This is the bedrock for everything else we're going to talk about. We're talking about large language models, or LLMs, the engines behind the tools so many of us use every day, like ChatGPT or Google Gemini. At its heart, the principle here is incredibly simple. A human gives it an input, let's say you ask it to draft a polite email asking for a coffee chat, the LLM chews on that for a second and then produces an output, the email, all ready to go. That's it, a straight line from your input to its output.
But this simple model has 2 really big weaknesses. First, its knowledge is limited, right? If you ask ChatGPT about your next meeting, it has no idea because it can't see your private calendar. And second, LLMs are totally passive. They just sit there, waiting for you to tell them what to do. Now, keep these 2 limitations in your head because they are the whole reason we need to level up. And those limitations bring us right to level 2, AI workflows. This is where we stop just giving the AI a prompt, and instead, we start giving it a path to follow, a specific set of instructions to get a job done. Think of a workflow like you're writing a very strict recipe for the AI. You tell it, hey, when I ask about an event, you have to first go check my Google Calendar, and then you can give me the answer. The key thing to get here is that the AI isn't thinking for itself. It's just rigidly following the step-by-step path that you laid out for it. Now, you might hear this fancy acronym RAG getting thrown around. Don't let it intimidate you. Retrieval Augmented Generation. It's just a specific type of workflow. It's basically the look it up function that lets an AI check an external source, your calendar, a weather app, your company's private documents, before it gives you an answer. It's a huge part of what makes these workflows actually useful.
Let's look at a real-world example to make this stick. You could build a workflow that automatically pulls news articles from a Google Sheet, then sends them over to an AI to summarize them, then passes that summary to a different AI to draft a social media post, and then schedules the whole thing to run every single morning. See how that works? It's just a chain of predefined commands.
But here is the critical limitation of a workflow. It's a big one. If that final LinkedIn post is kind of weak or just off, the system can't fix it. You, the human, have to jump back in, tweak the prompts, maybe change the steps, and manually run it all over again. The trial and error still falls on your shoulders. The workflow can't learn or get better on its own. And that brings us to our final level.
And that brings us to level 3, the giant leap to autonomy with AI agents. This is where things get really, really interesting, and it's a completely different way of thinking from what we've seen so far. Okay. This next idea is the single most important one in this entire explainer. The massive change, the leap from a simple workflow to a true agent, happens when the human decision maker gets replaced by the AI. All of a sudden, the AI isn't just following your recipe anymore, it's creating the recipe all by itself. So how in the world does an agent think? Well, most of them use a logic called the REACT framework. And once again, this fancy name hides a very simple idea. REACT just stands for 2 things, reason and act. Here's how it works. First, the agent reasons. It looks at a goal, like create a social media post from today's news, and it figures out the best strategy to get there. Should it search the web, use a specific tool? It makes a plan. Then it acts. It uses whatever tools it has to actually execute that plan it just came up with. It's making its own decision step by step to get the job done. And this is the magic part. Agents can iterate. Remember how in the workflow the human had to fix the bad LinkedIn post? An agent can do that itself. It can generate a draft, then critique its own work based on criteria you've set, like, is this post engaging enough? And then it can revise it and revise it again, all by itself, until the goal is met.
That whole painful trial and error process, it's now automated.
Okay, let's zoom out and pull all of this together and really look at the big picture. We've made a journey from simply giving the AI a prompt all the way to giving it a full-blown goal.
So let's put it all side by side. We started at level 1 with a basic LLM, which is really just a responder. You give it a prompt, and its only job is to generate an output. Then we moved up to level 2, the workflow, which is a follower. You give it a prompt plus a path, and its job is to follow your steps exactly. But level 3, the agent, now that's a decision maker. You give it a high-level goal, and its defining trait is its ability to figure out how to achieve that goal all on its own.
This is the fundamental shift. We are moving away from telling machines exactly what to do, step by step, and moving towards simply telling them what we want to achieve. And that leaves us with a really critical question. As these AI agents start to take over the role of decision maker for more and more of our tasks, how do our own roles need to evolve right along